Smithsonian Anacostia Community Museum presents the following interview with Robert Garcia. A power plant does not belong in the park. Robert Garcia is with the City Project in Los Angeles. He is sitting in a room with a bookshelf behind him and is wearing a charcoal gray blazer with a light orange shirt underneath.
The City Project, in all those contexts, the green justice context in LA, has consistently relied on 5 strategies. 1, coalition building. 2, translating research, historical research, statistical disparities, legal research, GIS mapping, demographic analysis, translating research into real change in people's lives through legal advocacy and policy advocacy. 3, strategic media campaigns, like this video. 4, policy advocacy outside the courts, like persuading Andrew Cuomo to withhold federal funding for the cornfield unless there was proper review that considered the impact on people of color and the park alternative. And then finally, access to justice through the courts. I am an attorney. I'm a litigator. I'm a recovering litigator. We prefer to work with government agencies and stakeholders outside of court because it's the right thing to do, but we will seek access to justice through the courts when necessary within the context of a broader campaign. So those are the 5 strategies that we applied at the cornfield, Baldwin Hills, Taylor Yard. The alliance in the cornfield illustrates the first part, the coalition building. As I mentioned earlier, there were about 60 organizations, including the City Project, civil rights groups, social justice organizations, health equity organizations, mainstream environmentalists, LA Chamber of Commerce, the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. And I remember we met with Cardinal Roger Mahoney when we were fighting to create the park instead of the warehouses at the cornfield. And he said, there are so many other issues in LA, why are parks an important issue? And we had to persuade him that, first of all, the values at stake, a child's right to have fun, also the health implications and the need for places for physical activity, the climate and conservation issues of greening LA, reducing the urban carbon footprint, lowering the urban heat island effect, economic vitality. Parks at the cornfield would do more to bring in tourists and businesses that would generate tax revenues and commerce, more so than warehouses. And finally, equal justice and democracy. The people have a right to decide what happens in downtown LA. It's not up to Ed Roski and Majestic Realty. So we had to persuade the Cardinal, and we did. That was the Chinatown Yard Alliance. Similarly, in the Baldwin Hills. The Baldwin Hills is the historic African-American heart of LA. The Baldwin Hills Park will be the largest urban park design in the US in over a century. And around 2001, the state of California proposed putting in an emergency power plant there to help with what was claimed to be an energy crisis. What we subsequently learned was the Enron accounting scandal. And in 3 weeks, start to finish, we took the same kinds of arguments that we used at the cornfield on civil rights, health equity, environmental justice grounds, worked with concerned citizens of South Central Los Angeles, Baldwin Hills Homeowners Association, and others to stop the proposed power plant in the middle of the Baldwin Hills Park. This is true. The state announced on Friday before Memorial Day weekend that the following Tuesday, 4 days later, they would have a hearing on power plant. So we had a holiday weekend to rally the people, and we did. And at that first hearing, there were so many people at that hearing to oppose the power plant that the state took the unprecedented step of scheduling another hearing about a week later. And at that hearing at West LA Community College, there were overflow crowds. They had to put speakers outside, and there were balconies with people lining the balconies in the courtyard to listen and submit comments against the power plant. On National Public Radio, the day before the California Energy Commission was scheduled to vote on the power plant, the developer of the power plant announced on National Public Radio, "We have listened to the community. They're opposed to a power plant in the park. We did not know this was going to be a park. A power plant does not belong in the park. We are withdrawing our proposal for a power plant." So in 3 weeks, start to finish, we stopped that power plant. And the good news is, we saved the park. The challenge is nobody knows about it because it all happened so quickly. But it's a true community victory. Taylor Yard, similar story. Same 5 strategies: coalition building, translate research into change, media, policy advocacy outside the courts, and access to justice through the courts, also known as litigation, but foundations don't fund litigation, so we refer to it as access to justice, which it is. But a developer wanted to put in a big box project at an abandoned rail yard, 40-acre rail yard, right on the river. We went to that developer and we said, "We will give you the same deal we gave Majestic Realty at the cornfield. If we can persuade the state to buy the site for a park, will you withdraw your big box proposal?" And the developer said no, and took us to trial. We won at trial. The developer fired his attorneys, hired our opponent from the cornfield, and we literally took the same agreement we used in the cornfield, crossed out cornfield and wrote in Taylor Yard, and persuaded the state to buy that parcel for a park as well.